story is God so loved the world that he gave his son. That's the story from Genesis to the Mass. But in keeping with that story theme, I want to pick out stories every week that gave us those traits of design, what we would look like if we lived our life by God's design. So the story for this week is this. It was just before Passover feast, and Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Now listen to this. This almost sounds like an aside, like a parenthetical, like it just said over here, it doesn't even go here. Jesus has decided, he knows that it's time for him to leave this world and go back to the Father, and he knows that that road goes through the cross. He knows that. And listen what it says. Having loved his own, who were in the world, he now showed them the full extent of his love. The evening meal was being served, and the devil had already prompted Judas to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So, this makes no sense to me. So, he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water in a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. You know why I don't get that? Because if I'm the Son of God, and I know I'm about to go through the most horrific pain, torture, humiliation that has ever been known to man. No one has ever topped the Roman execution of crucifixion. There's no more agonizing death that combines just humiliating a person to their very core. No one has topped that. And he knows, if I know I'm going through that, what I'm probably thinking is, it's time for them to show me their love and get up from this table and wash my feet. But this says that he knew he had all things under his power. All power is his. He could choose to go or not go. He could choose to obliterate the devil with just a word, with a thought. He could have done any of that. And it says when he knew that the Father put all things under his power and that he had come from God and he was going, he got up and served. That makes no logical sense from a human perspective. It makes no sense. Peter said, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? We were going to do a thing, Rob and I were going to do a thing this last Wednesday. Rob was tied up in surgery, he couldn't do it, but the topic for the day to discuss on the radio was, who do you most identify with the Bible and why? Peter was me. Not because I was like the first disciple, but because I'm always putting my foot in my mouth. Lord, are you going to wash my... In other words, there ain't no way this thing's happening. Jesus said, you don't understand. You don't realize what I'm doing, but later you understand. No, you shall never. Peter's also big on ultimatum kind of language. You will never, I will always. He's big on that. Guilty. You shall never wash my feet. Unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Then Lord, just baptize me all. Just head, hands, feet, everything. Further down, when Jesus had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and he returned to his place. That's what I love about Jesus. Every time it's a teaching moment, he wants to draw it out. He wants to make sure they get what he's giving. Do you understand what I've done for you? He asked. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you should also wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. I tell you the truth. No servant is greater than his master, nor messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you... Anybody know the last two words there? You will be blessed if you do them. If you do them. I hear a lot of people on TV. I hear a lot of people in my circle of influence who talk a lot about calling on God to do for them, to give them what they will get if they have the right amount of faith. What will be done for them if they can fill in the blank. But this says to me that now that I know what Jesus has set the example to be, that I too will be blessed. Don't ever pass over that word. That word does not mean the American version of happy. This is way beyond happy. This is a sense of contentment and fulfillment that far exceeds circumstances. That's why in Matthew 5 you have blessed are the meek. Blessed are the peacemakers. That's not, the translation does happy there, they missed it. Because I don't know the last time you tried to be a peacemaker in between two conflicting parties. That's not what I would call happy. But it is a time of blessing. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do. So I'm going to keep it very simple today, just very simple. Right there in the I don't know if it was Taylor, what's her name? Taylor Swift. I don't know if it's Taylor Swift. She does that at all of her concerts. That's what I was told. I've never been to her concert. But that's what she does. She does that to her fans to show that she loves them, I guess, appreciates them. I thought, well, the heart is always a good thing to show as an image of love. But what I like about that image is not that it's forming a heart, but that there are hands in it. And so this morning, just a few things to walk out with, to go have lunch on. If we're going to have a life designed by love, it requires some things. First thing it requires is recognition. You go, oh, well, cool, I like that. I like being recognized. I like for people to recognize that I'm doing something good. That's not exactly the recognition I'm talking about. The recognition I'm talking about that Jesus is talking about, he says, later on in this same story, in John 13, a new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. See, love one another is not a new command. That is not a new command. That is an old command. The new command is, love one another as I have loved you. Now he's defined what that means. And they have seen with their own eyes. And they're going to see more of what that means as the story unfolds. Then he says, by this, all men will know. And I love the version that says, all men will recognize you as my disciples if you love one another. So what I'm saying here is if we're going to live a life designed by God, if our life by design is God designed, then it's got to include, first and foremost, a life that's marked by love, but not the tingly, not the, oh, she's really hot, oh, he's really hot, and that wick burns down in 6 months, and then we're right back to square one. Not that. But the love that says, I will put my hands to doing something for you. Listen, we're going to look at it just briefly, but doing something for someone who does back to you, loving someone in that way who loves you back is not what God is looking for. That's easy to do, he says. That's easy. That's the easy part. It's hard to love someone. That is, demonstrate kindness, service, helping them when you absolutely cannot stand them. That's the rub. And that's a life designed by love. So you have to understand that recognition is involved. Then, and this is important, you have to understand that to have a life designed by love, designed by God, in love, you got to break the scales. Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. Now check this out. For he who loves his fellow man has fulfilled the law. I've said this before, and I had a great conversation with BJ the other day about this. This used to come up all the time in Old Testament class. It shows that someone's really thinking. Randy, why did God give the Israelites the 10 Commandments and the 600 plus laws that went with them, knowing that they could not keep it? That's a great question. And you can come up with all kinds of answers on your own. We actually have the answer from Paul. You know what he said? The law was put into place to lead us to Christ. In other words, the reason that the law, which is perfect, the problem is not with the law. The law of the Lord is perfect. I mean, in every way. If you could live the law with all of those hundreds of statutes and decrees and rules, if you could do it, I mean, you would not harm your neighbor. You would be kind to everybody. You would help everybody. But the problem is, we don't. The problem with the law is not the law, it's people. That's the problem with the law. And people were supposed to look at the law and say, we can't do this. We can't do it. Instead, what they did is they refined certain things and kept certain portions